Jeffrey Dahmer is remembered as one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. Between 1978 and 1991, he murdered 17 young men, committing acts that shocked the nation and exposed both personal and systemic failures. But the story of Jeffrey Dahmer begins long before the murders, with warning signs that were apparent, yet often overlooked. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. At first glance, he appeared calm, quiet, and even a normal child, according to his parents. Yet, from an early age, Dahmer showed signs of emotional distance and social withdrawal. His teachers noted that he rarely interacted with peers, often appearing isolated, and they questioned whether he was receiving adequate attention at home. Dahmer's childhood environment was unstable. His father, Lionel, pursued a degree in chemistry and spent long periods away, while his mother, Joyce, struggled with recurring illnesses and emotional difficulties that often left her confined to bed. Their marriage was fraught with conflict, marked by constant arguments, which Jeffrey later described as extreme tension. Despite the turbulence, both parents cared deeply for their son, trying in their own ways to provide support. When Jeffrey was 6, they allowed him to choose the name of his newborn brother David, in hopes of helping him feel included. After moving several times, the family finally settled in Bath, Ohio, where Jeffrey's fascination with death and dissection began. At around 4 years old, he helped his father remove animal remains from beneath the house. He later described feeling oddly thrilled by the sound of bones dropping into a metal bucket. This fascination only deepened with time. Dahmer collected roadkill, dismembered animals in the woods behind his home, and stored bones in jars. On one chilling occasion, he decapitated a dog and displayed its body. Lionel, unaware of the disturbing nature of these acts, interpreted them as scientific curiosity and even taught Jeffrey how to clean and preserve bones with chemicals, inadvertently encouraging the behavior. By adolescence, Dahmer's inner world became increasingly troubling. He realized he was attracted to boys, but his sexual fantasies were intertwined with dominance, control, and death. Terrified by these urges, he confided in no one. Instead, he turned to alcohol to suppress his thoughts, beginning a pattern of daily drinking that would follow him for years. At 16, Dahmer became obsessed with a jogger he regularly saw. He even hid in the bushes with a baseball bat, planning to attack, but the jogger never appeared that day. This unfulfilled intent demonstrated a growing compulsion toward harming others, though it had not yet materialized. High school offered little respite. Dahmer was socially isolated and had few friends. He smuggled alcohol into school, drinking during class, and his academic performance suffered. Teachers described him as polite, quiet, and unassuming, while classmates noticed his bizarre behavior. He staged pranks like pretending to have seizures or making strange noises, which earned attention and laughter. Ironically, his oddity brought him notoriety among peers, even inspiring the phrase "doing a Dahmer" to describe eccentric acts. In 1978, after his parents' divorce, Dahmer was left alone in the family home. Isolated, drinking heavily, and emotionally detached, he took a dark turn. That summer, he picked up 18-year-old Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker heading to a rock concert. After drinking together and listening to music, Hicks decided to leave. Panicked by the fear of abandonment, Dahmer attacked him, killing him with a dumbbell and strangulation. He dismembered Hicks's body, buried the remains, and later destroyed the evidence using chemicals and acid. This first murder set the precedent for the behaviors that would dominate the next 13 years. A combination of obsession, control, and ritualized killing. Dahmer's first murder marked the start of a pattern in which fear of rejection and compulsion to control life and death intersected. It also revealed how his childhood experiences, isolation, and growing sexual and psychological compulsions laid the groundwork for his later crimes. From the outside, he appeared quiet and even harmless, a chilling reminder of how early warning signs can go unnoticed when masked by normalcy. Following his first murder, Jeffrey Dahmer attempted to maintain a semblance of normalcy, though the urges that drove him to violence never disappeared. Shortly after high school, he briefly enrolled at Ohio State University but dropped out after 3 months. Seeking structure, he joined the U.S. Army in 1979 and trained as a combat medic. Military service, however, did not curb his behavior. Stationed in Germany, Dahmer's alcoholism intensified, and fellow soldiers later accused him of sexual assault. His job performance suffered, and he was dishonorably described by superiors as unstable. In 1981, he was discharged and returned home, more isolated and troubled than ever. Back in civilian life, Dahmer's criminal behavior continued on a smaller scale. He was repeatedly arrested for disorderly conduct, indecent exposure, and alcohol-related offenses. His father arranged for him to live with his grandmother in Wisconsin, hoping a structured environment might prevent further escalation. Instead, Dahmer's urges manifested in increasingly horrific ways. In 1987, he murdered Stephen Tuomi after heavy drinking. From that point, his killings accelerated. Dahmer targeted vulnerable men, often on the fringes of society, luring them with offers of money, alcohol, or companionship. He drugged his victims, strangled them, and engaged in ritualized acts including photography, dismemberment, and preservation. He kept body parts as trophies, experimented with chemicals, and even attempted crude lobotomies on living victims in an effort to create submissive companions who would not leave him. Despite obvious warning signs, law enforcement failed to prevent further murders. One of the most infamous examples occurred when police returned a bleeding 14-year-old boy to Dahmer, who claimed the teen was his adult lover. The boy was later killed. Evidence of prior murders, including dismembered bodies and photographs, could have been discovered in earlier visits had the officers conducted even a cursory search. Between 1989 and 1991, Dahmer's victim count grew rapidly. His crimes were meticulously planned, and he deliberately selected targets whose disappearances were less likely to attract attention. Men who were isolated, marginalized, or transient. He once said his only motive was to completely control a person and keep them with me as long as possible, even if it meant just keeping a part of them. Dahmer's killing spree finally ended on July 22, 1991, when a man named Tracy Edwards escaped from Dahmer's apartment with a handcuff still attached to his wrist. Edwards flagged down police who entered Dahmer's home and immediately noticed Polaroid photographs of dismembered bodies lying in plain view. A full search revealed severed heads in the refrigerator, preserved organs, and jars containing human remains. Dahmer was arrested without resistance and soon confessed to all 17 murders. His trial began in January 1992 amid intense media attention. Though Dahmer pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, the jury rejected his defense and found him legally sane. He was sentenced to 16 consecutive life terms in prison. During incarceration, he reportedly adapted to prison life, became religious, and expressed remorse. He was baptized and corresponded with his father regularly. In November 1994, Dahmer was assigned to a work detail with other inmates. During that assignment, fellow prisoner Christopher Scarver attacked him with a metal bar. Jeffrey Dahmer died at the age of 34, marking the violent end of one of the most infamous criminal cases in American history. The Dahmer case continues to fascinate and horrify, not only because of the sheer brutality of the crimes, but also because of the repeated failures of those around him, family, peers, and institutions, to intervene sooner. It is a stark reminder of the dangers of unaddressed psychological disturbances and the tragic consequences when compulsion goes unchecked. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below which crime or killer we should cover next. See you next time.